who did nothing about January 6th. He was the one, no, we don't need anybody, we don't need any help. Along with crazy Nancy Pelosi, they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. They were supposed to. They're in charge of it. But all of our Democrat-run cities are being absolutely ruined and destroyed as we sit here and talk. They're being ruined. I will order the ATF to stop bullying gun store owners and wanting to shut them down for paperwork errors and instead go after drug dealers, human traffickers, and criminal cartels, which is what they should be going after. Under Biden, other countries are emptying out their prisons, insane asylums, and mental institutions and sending them right here to the USA. Can you imagine? Prisons and mental institutions are being emptied out. I read a story not long ago where a man who takes care of a large segment of people in a mental institution in a South American country, a doctor, sounded like a great man, actually. He said he no longer has anything to do. He used to work 24-hour days. He said, all of our patients have been released into the United States of America. And this is what we have. This is what we've allowed to happen. And we can't allow this to happen because we will not have a country any longer. We can't allow it to happen. Under my leadership, we will quickly restore the most secure border in U.S. history. We had the strongest border in history, and now we have, I think, the worst border in the history of the world, because no country, even a third world country, would allow what's happening right now to us to happen to them. The first reconciliation bill I signed for a massive increase in Border Patrol. These Border Patrol, Brandon Judd and all of his people, they're incredible, the job they do. Tom Homan, as a man that knows it, you see him on television. I call him central casting, but these two guys and all of the people that work with him, they're so good. They want to do their job. It's going to be a colossal increase in the number of ICE and Border Patrol deportation officers, following the Eisenhower model. I don't know if you know, Dwight Eisenhower was very tough on the subject. We will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. And I will ask every state and federal agency to identify every known or suspected gang member in America. And every one of them that is here legally, we will pick them up and we will send them back to the country from which they came. As we restore safety to our streets, we have no choice. As we restore safety to our streets, we must also restore it to our schools, hardening places of learning. We have to harden our assets to protect our children against threats of any kind. Last month, our hearts were shattered by news of the monstrous attack on a Christian elementary school in Nashville that claimed the lives of 3 adults and 3 precious children. Today, we wrap those beautiful families in our love and we lift them up in our prayers. We also salute the law enforcement heroes who ran into danger and took out that killer with speed and skill that made us all very, very proud. That made us all very, very proud. It's a scandal and a tragedy that year after year, Democrats in Washington continue to hold common sense school safety measures hostage to their radical gun control agenda, which in virtually all cases would do nothing to prevent attacks by demented and disturbed individuals, of which we have many, and many are coming into our country, but we're getting them out. Our country has been chock full of guns for centuries, and there was no talk of massacres of school children until around the year 2000. That's when it really started. They started talking about it. This is not a gun problem. This is a mental health problem. This is a social problem. This is a cultural problem. This is a spiritual problem. Each and every one of these heinous attacks depend on the same cold-blooded calculation that the evil monster will have a window of time to act out their demonic fantasy unchallenged. They want to be unchallenged. They don't want challenge. The only way to stop these wicked acts is to ensure that any sicko who would shoot up a school knows that within seconds, not minutes, they will face certain death. They have to know that. And they won't be doing it. For this reason, I will ask Congress to repeal totally ineffective legislation that makes it harder to protect our schools and easier for criminals to face absolutely no opposition when they go in. I will also create a new tax credit to reimburse any teacher for the full cost of a concealed carry firearm and training from highly qualified experts. Who's better? Who's better? If even 5% of teachers, people that are skilled with arms, we want that, 5% were voluntarily armed and trained to stop active shooters, we would achieve effective deterrence and the problem would cease to exist. And that would be a lot of people. But these are all people that are trained and talented with firearms. For about $12 billion, we could fund armed security guards at the entrance to every school in America and also arm every willing teacher. We want to arm some of these teachers. They have to go through rigorous, or as some people say, vigorous. I like vigorous better. I don't like rigorous. They have to go through vigorous training, but they're already there. And they'll do better than anybody you could put in, and they love our children. They really love our children. If we can send $120 billion to Ukraine, then we can afford 1/10 of that amount to protect American children in American schools. We also need to drastically change our approach to mental health. Upon my inauguration, I will direct the FDA to convene, and it's going to happen quickly, to convene an independent outside panel to investigate whether transgender hormone treatments and ideology increase the risk of extreme depression, aggression, and even violence. I think most of us already know the answer, don't we? Furthermore, we have to look at whether common psychiatric drugs, as well as genetically engineered cannabis and other narcotics, are causing psychotic breaks. A lot of problems. We're having problems that we've never seen before, and people sort of think they understand why. We must also be much better at detecting warning signs of evil, disturbed young men like the one who murdered colleagues in Louisville. We cannot rest until we get to the bottom of all of the sickness that we're seeing in our country. I will fight to restore our safety, and I will also fight to reclaim our freedom. We're going to have freedom in our country. We're going to be able to walk down the street and buy a loaf of bread and come back and not be shot. To defend our Constitution and the rule of law, I will give you my word today that I will appoint rock-solid constitutional conservatives to crush the communists from our federal bench. They are communists, many of them. We did a great job. We set a record, but there's more to go. Before Election Day 2024, I will once again release the full list of names from which I select my appointments to the United States Supreme Court, so everyone can see who I'm thinking about putting there. I did that last time, and a lot of people said it made a big difference. It will be an all-star roster of young, fearless originalists in the mold of Antonin Scalia, great man, and the great lion of American liberty, Justice Clarence Thomas. By the way, they're after him. Did you see it? They're after him now. They're after Clarence now. But he can take care of himself very well. At the same time, conservatives can no longer sit by and wait for the courts to save America. Our country is being plundered and ransacked by radical left barbarians who are trying to burn down every right and every liberty that we hold so dear. The next time we have power, Congress has to step up and stop this Marxist revolution in its tracks. We have a Marxist revolution going on, and I think you're starting to see it. I think you're starting to see it, and we have to stop it fast. This is what we must do to save our country. With your vote and with a Republican House and a Republican Senate, and we have a really good chance at both, I will lead the great rebirth of American freedom. We will build a future where we're free of crime and free of violence and free from fear. There's fear where we are free from dependence on foreign countries. We're so dependent on so many foreign countries, in particular China, where we are free from the shackles of an unelected deep state, from corrupt intelligence agencies, free from war, free from poverty, free to speak our minds, and last but certainly not least, free to keep and bear arms. And in closing, I have to state, the USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. Russia has joined with China, unthinkable. Saudi Arabia, great people.